Okay. And let me find that. I can go ahead and share my screen if that works for everyone.
Yeah.
Can you see it okay, or would you like me to zoom in?
Oh, let me go ahead and pull mine up too. That'll be easier to,
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
yeah, you probably have it already, Christine. And any update or issues on us going ahead and reviewing this prior to your grant writer?
I got the email today, so
What luck?
they expedited it and got approval today, and she just said to keep her in the loop.
Nice.
Awesome.
So perfect timing.
Gosh, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So Christine and Bonnie, welcome. Just to remind the group how we are managing these implementation projects, every sector has up to $10,000 to spend toward implementation projects or action steps that advance the strategies and tactics for each of the sectors. So these applications are meant to be short, and they're meant to be, they're meant to demonstrate connectedness across different sectors of the PA plan, addressing issues across different levels of a socio-ecological model. So we're hitting people in different ways. Examples of that are interpersonal, community, policy. If we're hitting people at the individual level and we also have policies to support that, that makes the project a little bit more impactful theoretically. We're asking for that. We're asking how budgets would be spent, what strategies and tactics these align with, and what would be done with what would be done after completion of this project. And what we intend in asking that question is, if this project is implemented, what would be the strategy or plan for expansion? How does this connect to other things that might be going on in the school district, or how would it connect to other things going on in neighborhoods or at people's homes or things like that, that would help ensure it's not just a one and done type of an activity, but it's really using this to build on something so that we have more opportunities for people to be active in the Kansas City area and at the places where they might be on a daily or weekly basis. So these applications that are reviewed by the core work group. The core work group for the physical activity plan meets monthly, but these applications are reviewed quarterly. The first time applications were reviewed was in December. The next time will be March, and then June, and then September, and then December, until funds are spent. There is a rubric, which you can see at the bottom of the application, and that just gives an idea of how the application is scored. So the core work group will be looking at this from an objective perspective to see if it scores high enough to be recommended for funding. The other thing the sector needs to consider is the amount of money requested, and if that is an amount of money the sector has available, and if the sector wants to spend that amount of money on any given project. An example of that is we had an application that was requesting all of the funds from one of our sectors. that sector decided they didn't want to spend all of their funds on the first project requested. They wanted to ensure that if additional projects came through, there were funds available to support those as well. That sector is recommending a dollar amount to fund that project, if that makes sense. So there are two things that we're asking the sectors to do. One is to support an application. So either say, yes, we support it, no, we don't support it. And the other is an amount of funding to recommend as well. This application looks like, let's see, it was $6,700. Is that right, Christine?
Mhm.
Okay, and so that's not the full amount of funding available. So even if this were fully funded, there would still be some funds available for additional implementation projects as well. So I wanted to just make sure we set that stage and see if anybody has any questions about that. Okay. So now I want to take a few minutes going through the different sections of the application to make sure we're all clear on what you're proposing, Christine, and it's recorded. So anyone else can look at this and provide recommendations as well, or ask questions. They can send those questions to Katie and I. And Robin, as the core lead representative for this sector, will have all of this information available to take it to the core work group and speak to the project at the next core work group meeting in March. Okay, so Christine, I'm going to let you walk us through this a little bit. And, you know, I don't know about Katie, but I have had a chance to go through this and get the highlights. But if you just want to give the overall thoughts about how this came up, what you're hoping to accomplish by this, and then we'll go through the different, what other sectors would you be working with, or could you work with? Is it multi-level, etc.?
Sure. So the project came out of a PD that I went to. The original one was at the state convention about 5 years ago, and I got to experience it. And then I went through a training during COVID from home and got certified, not to teach teachers, but just to deliver it in my classroom space. And since we serve in KCK over 22,000 students, in this role where I'm visiting all 40 buildings, it seems like I have a view into all the classrooms, and there's a need, since fitness is supposed to be taught in all the classrooms, and no matter what's going on, it would be nice to have some vertical alignment within it, like a framework where teachers are using the science behind movement to plan their fitness instruction. So when I experienced Apply Yoga, if you think about yoga and you think about CrossFit or HIIT training, it's kind of a mix. So it's just a different way of putting it together, and it just seems like something that could unify our teachers. And if they're able to integrate pieces of it or the whole thing, it would just increase our student learning in terms of fitness and understanding, and also protecting students from the wrong kinds of exercises. It really brings balance. There's a lot of, I can write it all in there, just the learning, the education piece for the teachers about the planes of the body. And we have a lot of teachers who do not have a PE background. So that, I've just been waiting for a couple of years to figure out how to bring this to our district. And so that's how that's where the idea came from. I did add some things along the way of how I could push myself in terms of things I could commit to or promise as part of this package. And so I tried to spell those out just even in pushing teachers, then like, hey, after this, I'm going to also give you a PD on CSAP so that everyone knows what a comprehensive school physical activity, you know, before, after, all the choices. So that would be something additional. And then for them to have to, oftentimes when we go to a state convention, we have to go back and like present to our staff. So my ask would be for teachers then to present on CSAP to their staff, because Play Yoga can be used all ages and stages. I've done this with adults. I did this with high school, with elementary teachers. Just it would be fantastic if this was just the beginning of something that could really reach even teachers, just the classroom teachers. So yeah, I put it in there about just family food, fun night, different things that people can do to have family experiences. The strategies and tactics, the main one is going to be under the schools, and that is under the professional development category. I think that, let's see, strategy 2. Yes, under strategy 2, just the providing professional development. We don't get to bring in paid presenters very often at all. Most of them are just guest presenters that their organization sends instructors. So the main strategy is the professional development one. The CSAP, I do feel like it's a good fit, and this would be a piece that would have to grow, because first I would have to make sure that there was a time when all the PE teachers knew what CSAP meant, and so just you'd have to explain and have a PD on that, and then wait for teachers to then present to their staff. So that would be a more of a trickle down effect, but this could be something to start getting CSAP back in conversations, because I feel like it's not talked about as much, but at the same time, these schools are really focused hard on SEL and CASEL, and like it's a new thing. And so it's a great time to merge those. I did add early childhood because really we a few schools serve preschool, but we have an early childhood education piece in our district, and there just hasn't been, I don't see any kind of overlap right now. And so I think this would be a fantastic opportunity for me to connect with the early childhood team and either give a professional development prior to this, even invite some of them to come to the training, and whether that puts the funding, like, you know, we might be able to get some funding from KCPA, but say we add people and we secure that through the district or additional funding elsewhere. I'm interested, if there's time between now and August is when I'm hoping to have them come, to rope in some of the early childhood teachers from our district. So I just have right now no connections with them. So that would be something. And then I did add sports, because right now, again, our athletics and physical education are very separated. And I've been told that athletics is here, PE is here, and that is not your job. So I'm hoping to, there is some overlap because we have PE teachers that are coaches. So there's already a starting place. And I've met a lot of athletic directors, and this, I think, would be a fantastic thing. All of our athletes are part of the 22,000 students. So the more coaches that can see a model and have that background and the framework, and we're all using the same thing, it would just benefit our students and springboard our athletics into a better direction. I know the person presenting, the instructor or the founder who would be coming, she works with athletic teams and coaches all the time. So I just tied it to tactic 3, identifying evidence-based practices that prioritize MVPA, moderate to vigorous physical activity during practice. And there's a lot of, I think there's a tendency to coaches, maybe they don't have the background, the kinesiology background, the safety background. And so this would be some science and kinesiology background for them. Down below, which system level does this project address? So definitely knowledge and skills, attitudes, just all around, because it could have the potential to impact the whole community, from teachers to students to families. Most directly, obviously, the first is going to be students. And then it is a one-time professional development. But my personal goal would be to then pursue the training so that I have the trainer status within the next year, so that we can keep it going without having, maybe, I don't know. I'm hoping to keep that training going, because we're going to get more teachers next year and people are coming in and out of our system. Organizing and advocacy. So I was looking at that. I'm not sure if this actually fit. I was just thinking that I'm trying to create new connections and alignments within our district between athletics and physical education program, and just more collaboration. It's very weak, and our athletic director resigned, the one for the whole district. She left last month, and all the athletic directors are new because last year they changed the qualifications. And so all the current athletic directors, they were no longer qualified. So they all had to leave. So we're kind of starting over, and there's just a lot of room for growth. Next steps after completion. So the main goal is that all the PE teachers would feel comfortable integrating Playa Yoga, the framework, into their fitness lessons. And the message they're receiving from me is that fitness is a part of every PE class. So even though you're doing a unit on badminton or whatever it may be, cooperative, that there's a component of fitness in every lesson. And then I just put a list of things that we have some teachers who are really good at Canvas. So
What
this
is
would
that?
be a mod. Canvas is the platform our district uses, kind of like Google. Many people are familiar with Google Classroom. Students get on Canvas to find all their assignments. And we have a couple PE teachers that have taken the units where we store them, like all the lesson plans, all their homework assignments, and they put it on Canvas. So it's just a platform that students go to turn in work, and they find out like what assignments are going on, what unit they're on. And Playa Yoga could also be a module, almost like a unit. I know that she talks about having it set up as a 20-day, you can run it as a fitness unit. But my vision for elementary, since we only have PE once a week, is to take out components in chunks and put it into every lesson. So depending on funding from the district, I'm hoping to invite coaching staff to join us so that we have more than just the 60. And if that's not going to happen, I'm hoping that the coaches that do attend can introduce Playa Yoga to their coaching staff so that we can get the importance to the athletic. Anyway, to get funding for coaches moving forward to be trained. Oh, there's also a self-paced course that they can purchase. And I was looking at that route first. And honestly, the founder and I both agreed that right now our teachers, I would say it's probably half, 50-50, would actually sit down and do the self-paced course. So we were trying to go for in-person. And then also, I'm trying to become a certified Playa Yoga trainer. And other than the CSPAP PD and just the ripple effect of that, that's pretty much it.
So
go ahead.
It sounds like your request is for at least two different things. One is expanding apply yoga through, I guess, at least a couple of methods that I think I'm hearing you say. One is advanced training for you to be able to train other people.
Well, that's not included in this grant, but that's my
Oh, okay.
personal goal in the
Okay.
next, in 23, 24, after our teachers have been trained. My next goal is that by 24, 25, I will have pursued and completed the training as a Apply Yoga trainer. Yeah, that's not included in this, but I was just saying, like, the next step so that we self-sustain and not have to find another grant to train the next round of teachers, because our district, I sense that we're going to have continue to have high turnover for a bit.
And so,
And-
okay, then it would be you providing, and I'm going back up to the beginning of this, you
Mhm.
will be providing a 2-hour professional development. Okay, no, wait, that is on CPAP.
Yeah, so maybe I didn't even add that. Maybe I need to add that. It's a 1 day at the, no. The training here is just a 1 day where the founder of Apply Yoga comes in. Oh yes, 1 day, yeah, a 1 day professional
There
development
it
for all
is, okay.
60. Yes, yeah.
And how would the instructors sign up for this? Like, do they?
So it would be coordinated with our district. We get, I've already talked to the professional development director for our district about it. And she said they have approved 1 day in August where K through 12, my whole team of 60, will be together with me for a whole day. And normally this is not how I would spend it, because that day we have a lot of information that we wouldn't have normally been giving. And usually we break it into sessions. But because of different things and not getting subs, it's not going to happen during the school year. I've already confirmed that. I did reach out to ask if we could provide it during the school day with, in a different season, like maybe 5 years ago before COVID, people could fund a grant and pay for subs and have all those teachers during the school day, but it's not an option right now. So they all are required to be with me that day, and I can plan it however works best for our team.
And has anyone else in that team experienced what you're talking about, or the training you went to, and are they asking for this training for themselves?
Yes. So last month, it was four different sessions. Introduced, they said I can give a session, a 30-minute session of what a typical session would look like. And so I did that for middle school and high school. They're in 2 groups. And they were still talking about it yesterday. I didn't mean to kick anyone's butt, but they were tired, and so they saw the value in that. And then I did send out an exit ticket to get feedback about, are you ready for a training? And the benefit also, I maybe not included that, but the access that they get to the exercises and the videos showing what the movement looks like. Like right now, I have things with, I have a packet, the binder from them, and it just shares the names. And so I wasn't given permission to share that with my team because they hadn't been through the training. So I haven't been able to share it, although there is overlap. It's not like they created a whole program with brand new exercises. There's overlap. It's more of how it fits into the timing of the framework. So, but they are interested and willing to attend.
And so after that training, it looks like the hope would be they embed that into their PE lessons, like I think you've already shared.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And it looks like you, and this is part of I'm not sure if this is an outcome or a next step, but you recommend or list collect student evidence of growth and create formative assessments. What would those specifically be related to? What's your intent with saying those things?
Right. So there's certain in their lesson plans, it's almost set up like a unit, but it's longer than a typical unit. So whether they do it at the beginning of the semester and then the end of the semester, or they do it like a unit, students should be able to answer. At the beginning, you could ask all these questions and we'll see that, oh, they don't know the 3 planes of the body. Oh, they don't know what sagittal means. They don't know what frontal, they don't know what those exercises mean. So there's a lot of kinesiology terms and vocabulary and concepts that they can give. And I'm thinking for that would be high school. And then by the end of experiencing Play Yoga and really, a semester of it, or however they want to measure it, there should be evidence of student learning of not only head knowledge, even like I look at it like mind, body, soul. So the mind stuff is like they're going to learn the academic vocabulary and they're going to be able to show that they understand in a multiple choice or however what those learnings are. And then the body, they will be able to grow in learning they will learn new exercises, and they're also going to see their body change if it's consistent in high school, because they do it for a whole semester and it's 225 minutes a week of PE. Even if they only did 20 minutes and Play Yoga was integrated into that on a weekly basis, they will see changes in their flexibility and their strength and their cardio. And then the soul piece, just that assessment would be on how they feel about their growth, and whether that's confidence or self-esteem. Just there's survey questions that can be used to measure evidence of student growth in like SEL categories.
What is the SEL?
Social emotional learning.
And how is that usually measured?
It's usually measured through surveys. So
that are already created?
They can either create one, like Panorama has is an educational company that gives free surveys, so they can select one. The ones for this project have not been developed. We would have to, again, in a Canvas course, it's almost like creating a unit, but how they use that with students, there's flexibility. And I mean, with elementary, they come to PE once a week and we are for 50 minutes. And so there's about a 15-minute session of fitness in every lesson each week. So with them, our leads team would have to sit down and we have a fitness standard. And so we would have to sit down if something was, a formative assessment was to be created, it would probably be for like 3rd through 5th grade. So right now there's nothing created for that.
But that is something that teachers do on a rate. They do social emotional learning and testing of those changes using surveys, basically.
Yes, I would say that's the surveys are, I don't know if surveys are being used. They're not being used in PE at this time at the elementary level. And middle school, next year their schedule is changing. Right now they only have 6 hours. And so we have PE classes with 100 students. So,
well,
I don't know, but
well, so the reason I'm asking is in this next step section, most of the people who are reading this aren't connected in schools and don't know all of these
right
pieces that you're mentioning or how they're typically measured. And so if you can add that here, like for example, it says collect student evidence of growth. Growth in what areas? Is that growth in height, weight? Is that growth in learning? Is that growth and flexibility? I mean, you've already mentioned a number of ways that it could be measured,
Right.
but I certainly don't want to say the things that should be, that should be measured. You obviously are the expert there, but having that explanation in there helps it make more sense
Yeah.
to those who are reviewing. And the same thing with the formative assessments. What exactly is a formative assessment? How would that be applied in this situation? What kinds of things can you learn from that? And is this something that is already being done in schools and you're not creating something new? You're either adding questions, or I don't even know if that's the right term or not.
No, it makes sense because
Okay.
classroom teachers, they use formative assessments all the time. And we do use our formative assessments, our observation. So because it's a performance-based class,
Sure.
we, they're constantly on their assessment sheet, like, oh, Johnny, he's skipping. Oh, Susie's not stepping with opposition. So it would be a matter of creating, formative assessments is it's what you do to just make sure that you're progressing and you're on track. So,
perfect.
Yeah.
And that little bit of explanation in there will help it make sense.
Yeah.
And see that it's embedded into the school day and the way you're tracking learning already. Yeah, that's super.
Yep.
And then the only other thing, so the next one makes a lot of sense, create a PLAYO model on Canvas. But I mean, like many of us, including myself, we don't know what Canvas is.
Right.
Showing my
Okay.
age.
And you could go as far on that just to say an online education platform, because I used it when and this was a long time ago. Canvas has been around for a minute because we used it when I was younger.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then in high school or college, it's Blackboard.
Yeah. Some of my teachers used it in college for their grad school, and so they're my experts on creating it because I'm going to a training next week. So
Yeah.
okay, I can add, yes, I made those notes.
The other thing I'd recommend to include in here for additional review is the time frame. So I think based on what you said, you're looking to implement in the 2023-2024 school year.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the August 20, it's for that school year, and that's the next time I get all my people for a whole day.
Yeah.
So.
Perfect.
Okay.
I would just call that out in here, and maybe in the very first section.
Up at the top.
Yeah.
The first section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would also help differentiate these two different steps you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you might even number those two things so that people understand there are two very specific things you're doing. One is related to PD training and Playoga, and the other is training around the CPAP. Is that right?
Yeah, CPAP. Yeah.
Model, because it's having that understanding of the model that encourages people to want to have more of this physical activity and physical education within the school setting.
Right. In order to find time before school or after school, family events, I think if they understand the CSAP model, they're going to be like, oh, this already exists. Yeah.
And then it's not just PE teachers who are interested in this. It might be the PE teacher who's providing the instruction at the family fun night, but all school personnel can begin thinking of this and integrating physical activity in ways that make sense in their own areas.
Yes.
I also would recommend spelling out SEL. You described it to us, but I don't know. Yeah, just right here.
And CSPAP.
Yes, that as well.
Even though I do know what that is.
Yeah,
that's right there in our strategies and tactics. But
yes. No, that's all good. Very good feedback. Yeah, thank you. I will.
And you only need to spell it out once and then, parentheses.
Yep.
The other thing, Christine, that I would include in here is, and I asked you this question, but if we have it in the application, that would be great. You already know that some teachers are interested in this.
Yes.
Include a
I can put
sentence or
that.
two about that.
Yeah, because I recently led the PE teams through a 30-minute sample session. I can add it right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I took data on through an exit ticket just to specifically, I can put some numbers to that.
Yes.
Yeah. And the reason I think that's so important is because we already say in our strategies and tactics, we want to support the CSPAT model. We all know we're trying to improve physical activity in whatever way we can in the school setting. So you're addressing before and after school programs, those sorts of things. But oftentimes what can happen is we have a great idea for a project, yet it's not well received. And right now we have an example of that with the Just Walk Walks. We have a great idea. We've started hosting them, but we haven't reached the level of attendance that would be really valuable. And that's partly because we didn't ask the community if they want it and where they wanted it. We didn't have a way to do that. You are already doing that. You don't have to ask the community if it's valuable. You have heard that it is. Include that in here because that is, means you have a better chance of moving it forward.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so is there any other feedback? Bonnie probably, I'm not sure if Bonnie can see the screen and hasn't had a chance or has any additional feedback, but Katie, do you have any additional feedback?
Yeah, so my only one is the early childhood education sector. I love that you included the strategies, but I think if that would also be a great next step, because you mentioned like they may not be now, but later on you would like to involve them. So you might also include that in the next steps on how you plan to sustain this by including them later on.
Yeah, and that's a great idea because they might, there's a slim chance that they might be like, wow, we want to send somebody who has connection with all of our early childhood, or they might want to wait, and if I get trained on my own, then that would be someone I could train their group on how it fits. I like that.
Yeah. So there's two things. One is that professional development that you're talking about right now. The other is beyond professional development for those that may not need the professional development, but want to be trained in this.
Mm-hmm.
If there were staff at, like, for example, we've had they're not even just home visiting programs. 2 programs in Kansas City, Missouri have presented at the early childhood sector meetings about how they support families. They are also trying to expand opportunities for physical activity. Some of them host what are called parent cafes. Those apparently have a curriculum that are tied to them. Some of them support group connections, and these are really sort of family-based opportunities to get together, learn, child development, and they're also focusing on nature-based play and outdoor play.
Mm-hmm.
If there were staff that were interested and able to be trained in this, those staff could lead this at some of those group connection events, because as you say, it's beneficial for, people of all ages.
Yeah, really, there's modifications.
Or at least 2 and up.
Yeah, there's modifications for every age level, and so that definitely could be part of like the vision down the road.
Yeah. And I agree with Katie. That makes a lot of sense to include in the next steps, because it would be as a result of you being trained that would allow that expansion. But I do like keeping the sport piece in here. And even, I don't know, again, we haven't talked to Parks and Rec, so we can help make the connections between the sports sector and the Parks and Rec sector, even though that's not listed here. But Katie has more experience with this than I do, but there has been a program in Kansas City, Missouri in their school district over the last couple of years called Move More, Get More, where they're doing some sport sampling in
Mhm.
after-school programming at a couple of the middle schools.
Yep, that's
It's been-
correct. So
Yeah, it's been led primarily by Parks and Rec in terms of leading the sport, but Katie could probably speak to how something like this could fit into that.
yeah, sitting here racking my brain so the thing though is that the model changed. So pre-COVID, we used Parks and Rec, but we still worked with them to use certain spaces after school that were around. So like Central, Middle, using their park system. And then, so they were only one of our members that we involved. We also involved like some of the teachers in schools themselves.
So with their modified model, Christine, it might work even better because they didn't have Parks and Rec instructors for all of the activities they were trying to expose kids to. This would be a
Right.
way to include something other than just sport, but still a physical activity in a variety of whatever settings. makes
yeah.
sense. And it also makes sense for those organizations that support after-school programming, and it's typically the YMCA's or park and recreation districts that come into schools and lead their after-school programming.
Which we also partnered with the Linwood Y for, access to space and resources as well. So we were working with schools, parks, and just
Mhm.
outside community organizations for that reason, so that we had a variety of options within the central school district to implement the school activities. So like, we didn't do swimming, but let's say you wanted to teach swimming after school. If the school doesn't have a swimming pool, you'd work with the closest option. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yep.
it was a good partnership.
Yeah, I think it would fit good after school with Parks and Rec, just because it's it will impact every sport, because it's almost like a type of conditioning. It's because fitness, just touches every sport. So
Yeah.
thank you for the feedback. I can get that stuff put in probably by tomorrow, and then it should change it right on the document. Her quote to me, I couldn't chop her quote up. That's why the yellow piece is something that our district was like, no thanks. So I hopefully it wasn't confusing.
No.
Yeah, that looks like it's just an image, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a question. A high school teacher who is on the board with Parks and Rec, I think she had a project and she met yesterday with Parks and Rec. So asking them to kind of take the, the lead, because it was more Parks and Rec than it was schools or sports. And sports, I think somebody already was fully funded. Was that, or fully?
Yeah,
sports?
that is.
So I was trying to get in touch with her today, because it was a fantastic partnership between, the schools and trying to grow girls volleyball with Parks and Rec. I just wasn't sure who to send her to, because I don't think she needed to include schools. It was really sports and Parks and Rec. And even if sports isn't funding any of it, it was still.
So Allison Smith and Jin Ju are the co-leads for the park sector. I can go ahead and connect you guys. And then
Katie?
Yeah.
I connect Christine to Natalie. Well, you and
sector?
Yes, for both Parks and Rec and for sport.
Okay.
And see, maybe the two of you could meet first to figure out what the application is and what makes the most sense in terms of moving forward.
Okay. Our Natalie, right?
Yes, our
Okay.
Natalie.
I was like making sure. Okay.
And she supports sport and you support Parks and Rec.
Parks. Christine, really quick, is this Wyandotte Parks and Rec? I know that sounds silly to ask considering, okay, great. They're actually coming to our next parks meeting.
Yay!
Yeah, so Shelley found that out today, but working on that. But so maybe we should meet beforehand and we can kind of go ahead and discuss that.
Yep.
Okay.
Did I have the teacher? I sat in with her on like a little planning session, but she really, I mean, she can send me the application. I still wasn't sure if she needed to be, I think the application it seemed pretty clear. So maybe she doesn't need to be in on that.
Whatever you think is best, but what we'll go ahead and do is what Shelley said, you, me and Natalie can go ahead and meet first and go over it before we present it over to the parks group and connect. It probably won't be before the next, so applications are due March 14th and they still have to be reviewed by the work group they're involved with, and the park sector will meet after March 14th. So this will be the next round if we're good with that. Okay, cool.
But just to be clear, Christine, as long as we receive your updated submission or application before March 14th, we can take it to the core work group.
Great.
Yeah, because you're
in March.
Yep, review that. And I'll include this video obviously in our notes. So anybody else involved in the sector can also review it at that time.
Great. Thank you.
I'm excited. I love how many, I mean, I know schools has 3 strategies, but it hits 2 of them really well. So that's great.
Yeah, I would be really thrilled if we could, even if the amount is different, I would still find within our district, like somebody to come up with part of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we don't have a bunch of other updates, and Christine, I think you probably know most of them. We don't have a bike month update since neither Jill nor Patrick are here, unless you've got one, Katie.
Yeah, I'm pulling up that email.
Oh, great.
Can you please ask coalition members? So just if you have any information, if you're doing anything for bike month, to email Jill with those pieces of information to be shared with Mark. And then that's really it. That was it. Just if you have anything related to bike month that you and your organization are doing, send it to Jill or send it to me and I'll send it to Jill.
Yeah.
The
other update I'll share is next week is our first Kansas City Healthy Lifestyles Collaborative quarterly meeting of 2023. We're super excited to be going back in person. We're hosting a hybrid meeting. We've never done that before. We still want all people to be able to come, even if attending in person is a problem. It will be held at the Kauffman Foundation Conference Center. It's from 9 to 11 on Thursday, March 2nd. There'll be a light breakfast served. Our speaker is going to be Dr. Sarah Hampel. She's going to be presenting on the updated or newly released clinical practice guidelines from the American Academy of Pediatrics on the evaluation and treatment of child and adolescent obesity. So there's been a lot of interest, questions, conversations around the guidelines. We're hoping to clear up some misconceptions and really talk about what they are and how they are used and what's coming next. Registration, we do ask that people register for the event so that we know how many people are attending in person for breakfast, and that you will get the virtual link if you're attending virtually. Okay, and then I think the only other thing is our next meeting is March 23rd. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that spring break for you, Christine?
Nope, I'm back. I'm looking, yes, I'm available. It's 3 o'clock.
Yeah, we're still 3 to 4:30, obviously, like just some extended time.
Yep. I'm good.
Anything else I missed?
Do we want to share the sport update about the Aspen Institute Project Play Report?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, so this is the sports sector implementation project, and it is funded. So the overall cost of this project was like $100,000. So they did seek, external funding besides just their implementation 10 grand. But that's exciting, and I want to bring it to the schools group because I actually have an example of a report. It's the Oakland one. They also assess sports in schools and have a lot of recommendations related to coaching, using schools as central hubs for extending sport programming. So I think it's valuable to look at, and it's something long-term that will be valuable to the sector, especially like in Kansas City as a whole, especially like all of our 6 counties, because it'll help with funding opportunities later on. So I just wanted to bring it up. It's really exciting. It's going to be a great report, and we'll really get to understand physical activity on multiple levels for our youth in KC. That was
awesome.
my brief, yeah. And if you ever get a chance to look more at Aspen Institutes, they do the physical literacy report as well, which I'm big into, and I know it's kind of a key focus for a lot of school physical education courses. So that's something to look at. That's all I've got to share today.
Any other updates anyone wants to share? Okay, well, if not, you have about 20 or so minutes back in your day.
All right.